What's up, everybody? Nerdity Absurdity here, coming at you today with another action figures review. That's right. Today we're talking about two figures. We're talking about two figures in the same wave. This is the Batman Arkham Asylum wave from the Arkham Asylum, based on the Arkham Asylum designs for these characters from Todd McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse. So we have Batman here. And then we have Penguin here. And we're going to talk about both of these figures. The packaging is pretty basic. You got the Solomon Grundy production photo on the back. It's exactly the same for both of these figures. And they come with the Solomon Grundy pieces inside. They both come with the McFarlane display stand, which I'm an advocate for. I would rather have the stand than not. It does help support the weight of the figures. Especially, I was talking about animated Batman. It's a different figure, but I mean, look at him. Look at those spindly legs. He ain't standing. He ain't standing without that action figure stand. People, why you hating? Why you hating on McFarlane Toys giving us a stand? You know who doesn't give us a stand? Hasbro Marvel Legends, and a lot of other things too. I like the fact that we get a stand and it does help pose your figures. I am an advocate of this stand. I get on bigger figures like the Clayface or the Killer Croc or whatever. Why do you have it there? It doesn't really work with the figure, but you can use it for other figures. Maybe your Hasbro Marvel Legends figures that don't come with any kind of stand options, and some that really need to, especially those female figures that are more top heavy with hair and the bust, and of course the smaller feet. In terms of accessories, this bat grapple over here with Arkham City Batman. It looks like one. I mean, it is one molded piece of plastic, but it really just looks like that. If you know what I mean, it just looks like a hunk of plastic. It's not super detailed or anything. I guess that's kind of how it looked in the game or whatever, at least inspired by. But yeah, it's nothing to really write home about there. I feel like McFarlane Toys has done better bat grapples. You can see here, even this animated Batman. He's coming with what I think is a nicer grappling gun over there. Yeah, it's just it's got the silver tip on the end. It's a little bit bulkier. It's more aesthetically appealing in my opinion. But let's just take a look at this accessory straight up. And yeah, you can see the little penguin head sculpted on there. That's nice. I like you have the I don't know what it's called, that strap that keeps the umbrella together, and it's bulging out here and it's going down there. This is nicely sculpted. The gold accents of the paint work. It's not a very complex not a very complex accessory, but it's nicely made and it works well with the penguin. Would it have nice to have had an open umbrella? Sure, I would have dug that. But hat is not an accessory. It's a softer plastic. You can even squeeze it in there a little bit, but it is attached to his head. The figure is all about the silhouette. Penguin is all about the top hat. I'm not going to remove the top hat, so the fact that this isn't removable anyway, not really a problem. We also come with, in terms of accessories, these trading cards. I'm not a fan of these. I think these are at least CGI designs or drawings, or they look like they're like CGI models of the characters from the game, and they're at least photoshopped and airbrushed and stuff like that. A lot of times they're just production photos of the toys, so there's no real point in that. They come with these data files on the back. Maybe I can focus that up there. Yeah, you can read that there. Read all about Batman. Read all about the Penguin. First, I think we're going to talk about the Cape Crusader, the Man of the Hour, Batman. And overall, I want to say it's a nice looking figure. He looks nice just at a glance. He pops on your shelf. He's got a lot of things going here that I really like for my Batman. Some people don't like the fact that this is an asymmetrical cape swooping off to the side, but I kind of like it there. Something I'm not crazy about. We'll just talk about the sculpt and the paint. You can see very definitely a mold line, and the plastic almost looks very different from the top of the cape to the bottom of the cape. I don't know what the deal is with that. Honestly, I don't get what's going on there. It looks weird. The cape is also a weird material. It's like it feels almost like there's something gonna come off on my hands from touching it. It feels like chalky or something like that. It's weird, and it looks fine, but it feels a bit chalky. It just doesn't feel that great in hand. But there's a lot of design things I love about this Batman. I love the color scheme, the kind of dark gray and the black there. Well, I guess this is almost more like a charcoal black, almost like a darker gray. But that works really well. Love the logo. It's the classic Arkham logo. I think it might be a little bit different than that, but any action figure that's based on a property that's not plastic, it's going to be inspired by, it'll take some liberties. You have these big honking gauntlets where it looks like there's a little bit of tech, because this was a very gadgety Batman going on. You got the boots there. I love the lines, the seam in the leg. I love this under armor part. You can see that there. Just how that's textured. We've seen that on some other McFarlane figures before, but it works with this Batman. This Batman's a little more armored. The head is always a point of contention with a Batman, and if I can just say here, that's a nice head. Oop, lost his grappling gun. That's okay. That's a nice head. This is detective mode version. I know they have a version where you have the eyes, you can see them, which does look more like the game. I think even in the promotional picture that comes with the promotional card, yeah, you can see a bit of his eyes, his pupils there. He does look like that in the game. This is supposed to be detective mode Batman, so his eyes are white. When Batman in the game goes into detective mode, his eyes glow, and he can kind of identify crucial pieces of information, spot where enemies are, weak points in walls, and things like that. He can see through objects. That's a facet of the character. They also used it in the Dark Knight, the Nolan movie, where his eyes would glow. And Batman as a comic book character has whited out eyes. So I really like that. I really like that interpretation of the character. It makes him pop. He's got pointy, slim, devil horn bat ears, and I really like that design for Batman. It's really sleek. It's really menacing. I don't like the tiny, in general, I don't like the tiny little nubs they sometimes give him, these tiny little bumps for the bat ears. I even like big banana ears, but I want to know that he's a bat. It's about the silhouette, right? You want him to have a striking silhouette, and this Batman has a striking silhouette. So he looks really good. The sculpt, the articulation, the paint, even the bat belt there. Take a look at the utility belt. There's even kind of I think there's even a bit of texture on the trunks. You can see like it looks leather, and then there's like these straps coming down, and then that there in the. Take a look back here, the bat butt. Not a heck of a lot, but you can even see there's detail in the boots. There's ridge work. There's definitely some armor stuff going on. I like that the boots are a little bit heavier too. Yeah, this Batman is he's a gadgety Batman. He was from the games. He was very gadgety, but he wasn't bulletproof. That was the thing about him. A regular thug could gun him down with a machine gun, so he had to be running away, flying away to be careful. He had light armor, but he wanted that mobility, and that's something that Nolan movie, the Dark Knight, did too. It's like he wanted mobility, so he sacrificed his armor for that. He's not a heavily armored Batman. I like that. I like that he's got to think with his wits. He's got to be quick. He's got to be fast, and he's got a few gadgets. He's got a few kind of technological things about him. He's not Iron Man. I don't like it when they make Batman Iron Man, where he's just got a bat suit of armor, but he's a detective. He's got a few tools in his tool belt, and the utility belt. This color scheming looks really nice. I know some people were like, "Oh, could this have been brighter?" I don't want it brighter. It matches. Like it's this kind of dulled color. What I loved about the Arkham games was they basically brought a lot of the elements of the animated series, but kind of updated it, made it grittier, made it like, oh, this is a real Batman walking around, but of course it's got the voice of Kevin Conroy. The Joker's still inspired by the Joker. Harley Quinn, same voice actress, still inspired by Harley Quinn. Just updated some of the design work and things like that, but it still exists in that universe. Arguably animated series best interpretation of the character, and Arkham Batman I see very much as a spiritual successor interpretation on that franchise. So really dig the look of the character. They're really faithful to what I remember from that, and it's just a good design for Batman. This was an easy pickup, easy buy for that. He looks good. Now the articulation, where this is where things fall down quite a bit. That's him looking forward. He can look up just a tiny bit, look down not a lot. So you're not getting a lot of articulation. His head will 360. It's on a dumbbell or whatever, and it articulates fairly well. It's fairly loose. You do get a lot of bad attitude. So I'll say that. Like that's quite a bit of attitude in your side to side. So that's not bad. But from here on, things will just start to sort of fall apart. So now you got a standard shoulder rotation where it's on a ball there, and you got the groove there, and you spin it around, and you could theoretically spin it up. But here's the thing: other Batman in the McFarlane line have adjustable capes. You'll be able to get the cape out of the way of the elbow. And let's see if I can show you what that looks like. Again, on my animated series Batman figure. So yeah, you see this cape is it's kind of attached to the neck there, I believe, like some of these other figures. Maybe not so much, but anyway, you can see here, you can get that out of the way, a fair deal. So when you're doing that, you can kind of maneuver the cape around and like, look, Batman's you got his arm sticking all the way up. It's kind of smushing the cape there. There are some other figures that do it better. The Batman 1000 comics, Batman Detective Comics 1000, whatever it was, him, you could basically swivel that cape around so that you could just get it out of the way and articulate Batman however you wanted to. But even on this animated Batman, you can kind of smush it and get it out the way. This cape is basically glued on there. There's not a lot there that's glued on there. There's a little bit of wiggle room if you bend it, but not much. He's basically not going to lift his arm up more than that. Right? You push it around. I mean, it's kind of getting out of the way, but you're fighting it. You very much are fighting it. You can't really, and try to spin it up. Like try to push the groove in this ball here up so that you can actually spin his arm up, get him lifting his arms up over his head. You can't do it just from the way the cape is sculpted. I mean, they say it of McFarlane a lot because they have a lot of original sculpts and a very little amount of reuse, which I really appreciate. But at the same time, the sculpt is taking precedence here, and it's not allowing room for articulation. I do want to just look at that arm again. Like, look at that kind of armor work in the side. That's really nice. But yeah, you're not getting that. You are getting a bicep swivel, so maybe that'll help out a little bit. And then this was a problem with the original figure. Of course, this is a re-release. They had Arkham figures before. Again, didn't have the painted out eyes, which I like better with this figure. But then, single jointed elbow. Why couldn't they have improved this? Like every character they come out with now, like this should really just be a given, unless it's like a big chonk or something and you just can't get it in there, or if it's a really small character with really tiny joints or something where they can't engineer it that way, and you're not a big company that could necessarily engineer it. I mean, grading on a curve, McFarlane Toys isn't necessarily small by any means, but they're not Hasbro sized, right? They're not a giant toy company that's been around. This license they've only had for like 3 years or whatever. They've been making toys for a while, but like still, they're not that big. So, I mean, I could understand if they're not engineering stuff, but they have figures this size already. They have Batman figures that have double jointed elbows. You do get a wrist swivel there. It's going to spin around. Find out where that groove line is, and that is the point on which you can bend it up and down, but it is a little stiff. I do feel like I'm going to snap it, even just doing it here on camera. The chest here, Chesty McGrew, he's on a ball. We'll do the 360 around, so that's nice. You're not really getting any kind of a crunch, It's tiny. Look at that. That's his crunch. Tiny and crunch back, not a lot. Part of this is maybe because of the cape, but I mean, you're not getting a lot out of this figure articulation-wise. Anything in the waist, and waist is on a ball, so that'll 360. What is the point? But it's not going forward. So I'm like, what is the point of that? Like, for me, good articulation is, okay, like even if you don't have, like for example, that Mafex Spider-Man doesn't have an ab crunch, but with the way the ball and the chest work together, you can get him into some positions. You can get him leaning forward this much because of the articulation at the legs. Like you can see that's just the diaper. This is a soft cloth diaper moving around the ball of the legs like so, but you're not getting anything from the chest, like or the tummy. Like none of that's happening. Like he's leaning back, I guess, a bit. You can see that more. But even then, like I feel like I'm trying to do that. It's going to push forward because of the cape. So you're not getting a lot. In the legs, you got the standard ball. He looks like that in the, or not the ball. It's this kind of a leg joint. It looks like that in the crotch. I don't know what that's called. No upper thigh cut, but he can kick out that much. You can 360 with this leg pretty much. Again, caveat with using those kind of joints and those kind of weird positions is you can break it. Here again, double joints in the knees, so that's really nice. I'm just like, why couldn't we have got that in the arm there? That's a big disappointment. Um, but yeah, taking a look there at the boot, there's no boot cut. That would have been easy to do as well. That would have been easy to hide an articulation point there because pegs here. I don't care, pegless tech. That's not a big deal breaker for me. But boot cut there would have been nice. This is bigger. This boot, it's sculpted bigger, so that could have easily gone on something, but maybe that's more engineering, so they didn't do it. Anyway, no boot cut, but you are getting an ankle pivot like so, and it does. You're not really going to kick up because of how this pad is sculpted. The pad is sculpted really nice, I'll say that. I'm seeing new things that I really like about the sculpt. I'll say that about McFarlane. You look at the sculpt again and again and again, and you'll keep noticing fun new details. So I like that. I'm a fan of that. But yeah, no, that would have been easy to have a boot cut there, or maybe not engineering wise. Anyway, this is limited because of the pad coming down, so he's not going to kick forward. He won't do full ballerina, but he'll ballerina a little bit. And of course, toe articulation. It's so weird. You have advanced things like you have toe articulation, which honestly, not a lot of, just as a point of compare, Hasbro Marvel Legends will have. Even like their Spider-Man figures a lot of times won't have toe articulation. But Batman will get toe articulation, but he won't get double jointed elbows. He won't get any kind of an ab crunch really at all. So it's, I don't know, in terms of Batman, like really, really mixed bag here. I do aesthetically really like this Batman. Batman is one of the kinds of figures I collect. I just have a lot of Batman, and this Batman, pretty good. He's a pretty good Batman. Now, let's take a look at the Penguin. The Penguin is a figure who I wouldn't expect to really articulate well or anything like that. But I think for what you get, it's pretty good. You can see it's the Arkham design. He's got the monocle's like a Coke bottle that's been jammed into his eye or something like that. He has a voice box or something like that down the side. I don't know all of the details. This figure is kind of gruffer. He's kind of like a London underworld. He's got the fur coat, nicely sculpted. So he's not my quintessential version of the Penguin. I like kind of a more refined Penguin, a kind of more upper crust Penguin. The thing about the Penguin is he's trying to, he's not a typically proportioned person, and he feels insecure about that. And it's almost like a Napoleon complex. He tries to put on the trappings and the refinery of being upper class, sophisticated. And in that animated series, he's very articulate and speaking well. But it's kind of like the that's all masking, not so much the physical deformity. The physical deformity is just kind of like a manifestation of the kind of evilness underneath the criminal element underneath the Penguin. So this kind of gruffer version of the Penguin is not my quintessential version, but I don't have a Penguin in my collection, so I wanted to pick him up. And you can see as I'm just playing around with the sculpt, it's lovely. Gets so many differing kind of texture details. Even this, you see there's that drapery on the back of the coat, slightly different textured than the fur trim there, and the coat itself. Little details like that are nice. You got the bandaged Penguin hand there, and then trim fur around the side. The sculpting of the wrinkles in the coat there, very nice. You get all of these pieces underneath. You get you can see the buttons there, the fabric on the waistcoat. He's got some kind of a cravat or something like that underneath there. Really nice. The pants are like sleek and shiny dress pants. There's just a lot going on, and the face is lovely. He's got a permanent snarl, but again, it's a gruffer interpretation of the character. I'm okay with. You can see the hair there. Is there a lot of detail in the paint? I don't know. There's a bit. You get a little bit of a pinker flesh tone around the Coke bottle there and things like that. Darker lips. So yeah, Yeah, there is a bit of like shading and stuff going on, so that's really nice in terms of the paint. So I'm digging that. And yeah, you're looking at the penguin, you're seeing the details in the pants suit. See the wrinkling on the edges there? That's really nice. There's a lot of and the pleat on the suit pants coming down. This is a lovely sculpt. It is a lovely, lovely sculpt. And again, this is all original sculpt work. I don't recall this on any other figure. Penguin is deliberately differently portioned than pretty much any other human being. He's one of a kind. So this is getting him completely right. You got the shoes there and the spats, and that's lovely. That's nice what we got going on there. You can see there's not you don't really have like you don't really see the buttons or anything like that, but I mean just the it's a little more basic in the shoe, but it's still nice. You still get the fact that it's a dressy shoe with spats, and you still have those trappings. That's the neat thing about the Arkham games. They're taking that inspiration of refinery for Penguin, and they're just muddying him up. Again, I like that kind of straight, more, oh yeah, I'm shaped like a penguin, but I'm still trying to be, and I'm a criminal, but I'm still trying to be a sophisticate. That's my preferred interpretation of the penguin. Running the iceberg lounge and all of that, just that classic penguin stuff. But for this specific interpretation of the character, it is creative, and this is a really well done figure of that character. Now, the articulation, I'm not expecting as much because Penguin is by definition a big chunk, but he gets a lot. So we'll just start off looking at the attitude. He gets a lot of attitude in there. I feel like that's kind of a staple of McFarlane figures. You do get a lot of attitude. Like, look at that. That's a lot of side to side there. Head's on a dumbbell. We'll tilt around. Backwards and forwards, not going to be that much because of the coat there and the hat. So he's not going to go back like at all, but he will go down quite a bit. I think he's going down more than Batman. So he's got that going for him. Shoulders, you got the typical shoulder ball. And unlike the Batman, he can get his arms somewhat over his head. So that's nice there. That's on the ball. You're not getting a double joint on the elbow here. Wait, are you? No, you are. I lied. So Penguin, a figure which you wouldn't expect to articulate well at all. And honestly, if they didn't have this for Penguin because he's a bulkier figure, I'd get it. I'd give that a pass. But he's got double joints. Why couldn't they have done that for the Dark Knight, for the detective, in the same wave? It's one thing you had to fix. You're doing it for the Penguin. Why can't we have double joints in the elbow for Arkham Asylum Batman? I don't get it. So you do have things like there's no there is a bicep cut. Oh, I skipped over that. Sorry. There is a bicep cut. It'll do a 360 there. So yeah, we're getting more articulation out of this Penguin figure so far. And his glove will 360 around. Yeah, he can go up and down there. You can go up and down like that. And because you got this big cuff there, it's hiding the fact that this is on a ball. It's hiding that what might be an unseemly articulation point. So that's nice. So what do we got in the torso here? Well, I mean, first of all, this coat is a soft plastic and the waistcoat, and it's over. You can feel there it's squishy, but it's over covering and kind of glued on to the body there. The actual torso itself. But the torso, it will turn around like so. He will do a 360. He will go forward with the legs and the chest quite a bit, actually. So you're getting a lot there. The one thing about this coat I would have liked, maybe if it was softer or thinner material, you can kind of see how thick the edge of that coat is. And if there was a cut in the back, that's not uncommon for coats to have cuts. You even have these little groove lines here that could have been cuts, just so that you could get a little more out of the articulation. His leg is kicking forward that much, not a lot. He's kicking back that much. You're not getting a lot out of these legs at all. It can technically spin around and kick out, but because of the coat and things like that, you're limited. The knee, single joint in the knee, again, big chunk. I'm okay with that for this particular figure. Because of these big cuffs, the way that's sculpted, going around the foot, it's hiding the ball articulation on the foot. It's also limiting it a bit, so it's not going up too much, and he's not going to ballerina too much at all. You get him in a few clicks, but he does have toe articulation. Wow. He can put his toes basically up against his leg there. So honestly, for a figure that's the Penguin, for a figure that's a big chonk and is not something I would expect to articulate too well, I'm fairly satisfied with this figure. Again, he's not super posable, but I mean, by definition, no big chonk really is. But you are still getting, there are still some cool surprises here, like that double joint there, and you are getting a bit with this torso working with the legs and stuff. This Batman will articulate about as well as the Penguin does at the waist. And in some ways, the Penguin has better articulation. He's got more range of movement with his arms and his elbows, which is a little sad for the Dark Knight, but I guess it's a point in favor of the Penguin. So, I mean, final verdict is I do like both of these figures. I didn't have a Penguin figure for my collection. Now I have one. He's not the quintessential Penguin, but he's a very good Penguin figure, so I'm happy with him. Sculpts on both are beautiful. Batman really suffers in the articulation department, but both the sculpts are beautiful. I like the design of this Batman a lot in terms of just the design. Not that this is a bad design. This is all just personal preference at this point. But the design of this Batman is like, this could be the Batman in your collection. He's like really close to that. He's really close to being on the nose, perfect, just as a good Batman looking Batman. I'm not gonna do that because I just like collecting a lot of Batman. It's fun. I love Batman. Todd has my number. What can I tell you? But yeah, no, Penguin is, if I had to choose one better than the other, it's going to be Penguin just because he's a more unique figure, a more unique sculpt. There's more texture work, and of course, the articulation is, I hate to say it, I think the articulation is kind of better. He's kind of a better articulated figure than Batman, which is weird. But they're both good. They're both good. You could, I could see somebody picking both of these up. I did. I don't regret it. I'm not going to get rid of either of these figures. There's more I would want to be good about Batman, but he looks so good, it kind of compensates for that in a way. So yeah, there is one more thing I want to try, and that's just this Build-A-Figure piece, this Solomon Grundy coat. Now, when you build Solomon Grundy, you're going to put this coat over him. You can see behind Batman there, you got the legs there, and then Penguin comes with Solomon's head and his big old coat there. So I will call it an accessory. If it's nicely sculpted, you can see the patches there and things like that. It's but strap on the back. But I call it an accessory if the figure can use it. Can this figure use this coat? So to get the Penguin into your Solomon Grundy coat, it's a bit finagly. You have to get one arm in, and maybe bend one arm, put it in, and it can be kind of tough to get out, but eventually you get it on him, and then, yeah, that's definitely a look for this figure. Remember how I said this was a more haggard looking kind of grisly Penguin? You could definitely, I think he's pulling that off. You can say I'm wrong about this maybe, but I think that still works. The coloring still works. It's a little bit bluer maybe, but not to the point where it's clashing with anything. It's, if anything, it's accenting the fur on the collar there. The scraggliness, the roughness kind of matches this texture and this big old overcoat he's got. And of course you got the fur that's all wonky and these jagged edges. This definitely is like 1980s shoulder pad working woman, Hillary Clinton style Penguin, I guess. But no, that's kind of working for me. I'm not against that. It does limit his articulation, but he doesn't have the biggest articulation to begin with. So that's just another fun thing you can do with your Penguin. And just to be fun, I put the coat on Batman as well. And you know what? I would never pose the figure like this, but I feel like Todd has designed maybe some of those heavy metal or those gladiator style Batman designs that might wear a big old coat like this. So honestly, for a Todd McFarlane figure, if you want to make your Batman more metal, you can use the coat with him too. Okay, so those are your DC Multiverse Batman Arkham Asylum and Penguin Arkham Asylum figures. I like both of these figures. I would recommend getting them both, but just do know that the articulation is limited on both, particularly on the Batman. You might be pleasantly surprised by the Penguin, but you're definitely, I think, going to be disappointed by Batman. He is just not superposable, but he looks super cool. He's well painted, he's well sculpted. They're both well painted and well sculpted. They both look super cool. So I do recommend them. I like having them both. I'm going to keep them both in my collection. Okay, that's all for me for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you see, remember to hit me up with a like and a subscribe. Remember to be kind to each other, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.